You see them and you just don't get that same ability. But Walter, if you see anyone who's unmuted, mute them. Let's give them a second to join. Everyone's connected.
How many people are out there?
No, not many. I can't see the number right now. Let's see, 8. It's pretty. Hello, everyone. This is Chuck Teroni, Reading's Conservation Administrator. This meeting will be conducted in person and remote format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, which further extend certain provision of COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until March 31st, 2025. We gotta keep an eye on that date. Please note that not all items listed may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permissible by law. This agenda includes those matters which can be reasonably anticipated to be discussed at this meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. I'm going to do that right now.
Recording in progress.
All materials for this meeting are available at the following link, which I will provide in the chat. Brian Bowe, the Conservation Chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note that there will be a public comment period for each hearing. Each vote taken tonight and at this meeting will be conducted by roll call. We will begin with roll call attendance. Brian, can you please review the agenda and take the roll call attendance?
Sure. So reviewing the agenda, our first item is to open a public hearing on a notice of intent for 0 Strout Avenue. That's going to be followed by opening a public hearing for a request for determination of applicability for right-of-way with Keolis. Then we will continue a public hearing on an NOI 0 Vine Street MBTA. However, that will be continued at the applicant's request. When we get to that point, then we will get to old new business, a few discussion items, and that's it for tonight. Having said that, let's do the roll call. And this will be the order that we vote in when we get to that point. Walter.
Walter Talbot, member, present.
Tony.
Tony Rotalakis, member present.
Tim.
Michelle, member present.
Martha Moore, Vice Chair present.
Brian Bowe, Chair present. We have a quorum, so call it to order at 7:05. Okay, I guess we're ready for the first one. Is there anybody out there for
Michael.
this one?
Assistant DPW Director Michael Kessman.
Okay. Hello,
We
Mike.
had somebody doing the minutes this week. It's
I'll do it.
There's one
It's
for
gonna
me.
be a short one, so I'll do it.
Okay,
It took forever in the last one. Okay, so Mike, you want to take us through this?
Do you want to read the blurb? You want me to read the blurb? I don't know.
No, I'll read it.
I think we should read it each time. That's why I was asking if you wanted to bail out of it, while you kind of get yourself together. I could read the blurb each time and,
I just think in time. Okay,
okay.
so we're going to open a public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Michael Kessman, Assistant DPW Director, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes after the fact approval for completed work of a water fountain for both dogs and humans to include water line trenching and a concrete slab. All of the work is within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year. Assessors map 43, lot 33, DEP file 270-0. Is that correct?
No, that's it. There's no, Mike Kessman, there's no,
There's no DEP
There's no
file?
DEP, that's the first one, right?
Yeah.
No DEP. So Mike, could you introduce yourself and your kids for the record?
My name is Michael Kessman. I'm the Assistant Director of the Reading DPW. This is my son Brighton. He's here with me for moral and emotional and technical support and guidance.
And I also lost my Pokemon card book.
And he lost his Pokemon card book. And his mother is not home right now.
Okay. Well, go ahead and let us. know.
Mike, do you want me to share the screen?
Oh,
And-
yes, please.
I can do that because I think he's, all right, so here we go. I have the plan from the, I have the plan showing, and you see this is from the storage containers that we put in. So we're using that plan again.
Yep, thank you. So this is an after the fact permit for a water fountain to be installed in this area. It's within the 100-foot buffer zone. It is a water fountain that will be both for dogs and for humans. And the story here is that the DPW, as I understand, I wasn't working for the town of Reading at this point, but last year, a water service line was installed, bringing the water service up to grade, above grade, actually. And then at some point in the recent months, we went and installed the water fountain itself, including excavating for a concrete base and installing the water fountain. And again, this is an after the fact permit. I don't necessarily have the full story on how we got to where we are right now. But I am here to apply for the after the fact permit with you guys in a sign of good faith, and that's kind of where we're at here.
Okay, thank you. Anybody in the commission have questions, comments, observations?
And I will
Chairman-
also mention how incredibly cold it was that day when we went out to look at the storage unit
Oh,
location.
stop it.
It was freezing that day.
Okay. Anybody here have any questions, comments, or anything?
My biggest concern is not erosion into the wetland from the work that has already been done, but erosion that might happen due to use of this water fountain. And I would like to see the wetlands protected from that kind of erosion.
Okay. Anybody?
You're concerned about water running off and
I'm concerned about a lot of dog feet tearing up the grass around the thing and the soil running off into the wetland and creating gullies and things like that. So I think we need to do something to put a berm, put pervious pavers around the water fountain, something like that, so that the place where the water fountain is surrounded by soil that used to be grass. And I don't want that all getting chewed up and making a big puddle that makes the mud running off into the wetlands.
I have an idea. How about you just put concrete around it?
No, we don't want to put concrete. Please stop.
That's all I had to say.
Anybody else have anything?
Is Walter's hand up? I don't see his hand up.
No, I don't see his hand up.
Okay, not seeing anything else then. So this is an after the fact permit application. And when we're doing that, we have to put ourselves in the mindset of would we have approved it had they come to us in the proper way. And so in doing that, I was looking at where it ended up being in proximity to both the wetlands and to a natural heritage and endangered species area. That's where the amphibians go. And I used the GIS map today. I admit that's not exactly precise, but it was only about 37 to 40 feet, something like that. So it's fairly close. On the one hand, there is a fence between where the water fountain is and the wetlands, but nonetheless, that's pretty close. I understand that while there was a delineation done of much of the wetland, the area essentially behind the fence was not delineated. So given that for background, the first thing I'd like to see is an alternative analysis. Because it's likely we would have asked for that had it come through proper channels as far as other places the water station could be. One that still achieved the purpose of the water fountain without being so close to wetlands in the natural heritage area. So that's the first thing I've been looking for, Mike, is an alternative analysis. The second thing is I have some concerns about there's not a delineation behind the fence. I don't suppose you have anything to add on that, any idea about that?
In terms of the location was selected because there's a water line, an underground water line immediately right there. So the DPW was able to dig one small trench, one small hole, tap the water line and bring a service pipe vertically to the surface,
Sure.
thereby minimizing the amount of disturbance, trenching, excavation, etc. that was required. So that is why the location was kind of selected for this location.
Okay, but again, from our perspective, our responsibility is to protect the wetlands. It's not in our purview to be thinking about convenience and what have you for DPW. So going back to what I was asking is, do you have any idea about the delineation of the area behind the fence?
My only real knowledge about the delineation behind the fence would be during our site meeting when we were out there, and I believe you guys were kind of standing on the other side of the fence, and we took a tape measure and we measured what we thought was the distance between the water fountain and the wetlands at that time.
Yeah, that's true. That was us essentially eyeballing it. That's not an official delineation, so there isn't one in place at the moment. So I guess the way I'm seeing it is, I do want an alternative analysis. If you did not want to do a delineation of that area beyond the fence, you could agree tonight to move the water fountain, and then it would be moved someplace where the lack of an existing delineation wouldn't be a problem, because it would go further away just in getting a permit going forward.
Brian, do you have a spot in mind? Move it.
Not really. I've put some thought into it. I was thinking that across the parking lot, somewhere near where the kiosk is, might be a place to start thinking. The ground is level there before there's a slope up to the level of the field itself. So you wouldn't have a hill to worry about, at least not much of an uphill to worry about. But I certainly didn't do any designs or anything.
Where would that be on this map that we're looking at now?
Oh, yeah, you're gonna ask me that. Okay, so,
I can switch to the GIS if you want, but I think we're up here. I think these are topo lines. They're starting to climb in this area right here.
Are you talking about the kiosk? If you take the pathway to the right as you enter the field, where the path turns from asphalt to
right,
gravel over by where the old gate was, or the gate still is?
so when you come in the entrance from Grove Street, that's where you're gonna be putting the fence in. And essentially, almost right across that parking area / road, there's a kiosk that was put up by Boy Scouts a year or so ago, a wooden kiosk with a little roof on it. So I was thinking somewhere around there. I'm not saying that's a perfect place. I don't know how that would work with the kiosk there, although best I can see that kiosk isn't used. So there may not be any interaction that's a problem, but something like that. That way you don't have to go up the hill to the level of the field itself. But it does still mean going across the pavement.
It looks like the water line might cross in more or less that direction. From the chart that just went away.
Where it might go.
They put the water fountain at a place where there was a pipe. If you look at
Yeah.
that diagram, the pipe seems to go across the parking lot to the other side. So it might not require digging a long trench.
Yeah, I'm
just a
I'm not
hole.
aware of that because my understanding is the line goes from the hydrant, which is right there inside the fence from Stroud Ave. And it runs 12 feet to where it comes up into the station. So I don't think there's anything going across the pavement. I'd be
Help, Brian.
Yep, so right about there is where the kiosk is. And you can see the white shading above that. That's the slope of the hill going up to the field itself. Likewise, the one going off to the right along the road, that's also the slope going up to the field itself. So I think if you could find a place on that lower level, but further away, the other thing you want to bear in mind, right where the road comes in from the compost area, on the right-hand side, that's where you have the trash barrel.
Mhm.
In the GIS, again, not 100% accurate, but in the GIS, it shows that as wetland as well. In fact, it shows wetland going onto the road there. So let's assume it's not entirely accurate, but it goes right to the lower half of the road at the.
Where is that? Right here, Brian, on the,
Yeah, you've in that area up a little bit, but yeah.
so you want the barrel and the fountain on the opposite side of the road?
You might as well get the barrel,
Spot for
get the
both.
barrel out of the wetlands. Not all poop bags make it into the barrel. Sometimes they're on the ground around it. If that is in fact wetlands, which is what the GIS is showing, then they're essentially throwing poop bags into the wetlands. That doesn't make any sense when it can be moved 12, 15 feet across the road there. Those little black marks are the boulders that have been placed along the road to prevent vehicles from going up on the field.
In terms of relocating the water fountain, I would have to confer with my colleagues on this, but I have a strong feeling that if the commission requires us to trench through the asphalt and to run a new water line, that the appetite might not be there to do that, and that instead we would propose to remove the water fountain and abandon it.
Okay, I guess what I would say is we're not mandating that you have to go across the pavement. At least what I'm saying, and the commission obviously gets a vote. What I'm saying is where it isn't good. So if you can find some other location where you don't have to trench through the pavement and it satisfies the requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act, then I'm open to listening to it, which is why I was asking for an alternative analysis in the first place. I only was talking about this place because Chuck asked of any place in mind. This is one place in mind. I recognize there are some negatives to it, but the negatives are not from the wetland protection perspective. It's more from the DPW perspective.
Understood. And to Martha's point, if it was to remain where it was, I think that we would be able to install some type of surface treatment, be it stone, or some other type of surface pavers, etc., for some distance around the water fountain that would serve to minimize any erosion from foot traffic of dogs and humans, etc. But I don't know if I'll be able to get us to run a new water line to relocate it to any location other than where it is right now. And I'm sorry to say that, but I don't see that. Again, I'd have to talk to my colleagues, but I'm not sure if I'd be able to do that.
So I understand that. Does that mean you want us to continue for now while you take it back to them?
If that's what you're requesting, then yes, I will go back and talk to Chris.
I'm actually not requesting because the continuance has to be from the applicant. I'm saying that if you can't speak without talking to your colleagues, and I understand that, then I'm not sure what our next step here would be other than to continue.
I don't see us relocating the water fountain in any other location that it's in today.
Chuck, could you put back up the plan?
And I'm sorry to say that.
No, I understand, Mike.
Okay. There's the water fountain. All right, is going to the right on this diagram, there's a thing that's got two lines parallel to each other. Come down more. Is that a pipe of some sort?
Says
That's
C-
what CATV would be cable television and the T would be telephone. So those are overhead wires coming off of the telephone pole right there. The underground water line, it doesn't appear to be shown on this plan. But those are all overhead wires coming off of the telephone pole right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, so I understand that you think that it may not be something you folks are willing to consider, but at this point, I think you have a conversation to have and we should continue for now.
Hey, so Mike, what
Okay.
does the OHW mean on the plan? I've
Overhead.
read
wire.
in.
Overhead wire.
Okay.
I actually only know that because we had it at the ranges.
Okay, no, I'm just
Yeah.
searching for where this water line might be, but,
I'm not 100% sure the water line, where the water line is. So I mean, that could be, something I look into a little more. And we show where the water line is on, if we do continue the hearing.
So at the lower part of the screen, the road coming in from the left,
yeah,
that's actually Stroud Ave. The one below you is not named, it just goes to the compost and out to Grove. But on the inside corner of where Stroud Ave joins the parking area, right down below that, there's a telephone pole with a street light on it. And near that, there's a hydrant. And the hydrant, they took a line off the hydrant and ran like 10 feet or so towards that telephone. So it's within a few feet of the pavement, right with the intersection of the two roads.
I have to apologize because I'm looking at this plan and the fountain location isn't shown on here.
Yeah.
I see the fire hydrant and the telephone pole, but I thought I had the hydrant on here.
And I think Chuck said this plan was actually from the container, so I'm not surprised here. It's
Yeah,
just,
there was a plan. I thought we had submitted a plan that showed the fountain in proximity to the hydrant.
I don't know offhand.
It's possible it's there and Chuck just has.
yeah, we can look, I set up the plans, to check out.
Just a question while thinking about alternatives analysis. We have the lovely new parking lot further up Grove Street. Are there any fire hydrants near there that the water fountain could be placed in that proximity?
Now, the water is on Grove Street, so it would be similar to new home construction where you would have to tap the main in the street and trench through the parking lot, which is a much higher elevation than the road.
Yeah,
I think that, in terms of the location that was selected, it was really not just ease of the work to be done, but the minimizing the impact. I mean, we're talking about any relocation, you're gonna have to dig a 4-foot trench, and that's significant excavation, from wherever you're gonna run, where you grab the water. That's significant disturbance. So, I mean, I'd just like to bring that up too, that if we do, we're talking about relocating it, I mean, that's significant excavation and significant disturbance to what's going on out there. Where the location that was selected, be it wasn't approved before it was done, it was very minimal in terms of its impact with where they dug and the work that was done to tap that line.
okay, so.
I don't have a plan. I looked through the application and, it might be in my email, but it's, This is the plan that, you know,
I must have sent the wrong one in with the NOI. I'm sorry. The plan that I'm talking about just zooms in on the area, and I think it showed the stone border, proposed stone border, and a stone pathway to the existing habitable area.
Okay, so can we have a motion then to continue this? Until when? How much time do you think you need to talk with the powers that be?
so why don't you go over the requests? It seems like three. You want an alternative analysis. You want a delineation of the wetlands in back of
fence.
back of the fence. It's basically that area that doesn't hit the 100-foot buffer zone, but it's in back of the fence.
And the third would be
Or
moving.
or don't do either one of those and move the water fountain. And then we at least need a plan that can show us where the water line runs, how it runs left and right. So let's say it runs up to where Brian has suggested the water fountain, then it would be very interesting.
Yeah.
We don't know where it runs at this point.
I believe it ends at the water fountain. I think it was extended from the hydrant further away from Grove Street towards the, but we might as well see
But
it.
those are the three that I have. Any other ones from the commission members? Any other requests?
I think Tony and I would both like to see the plan that Mike submitted that we haven't had a chance to see here.
Absolutely. I think that was part of the three I put
I
in there.
didn't hear it.
That's fine. Yeah, sorry.
And I would like to, if this water fountain did not get moved and did get approved, I would like to see what conditions we would put on it to prevent erosion into the wetland.
I think one step at a time.
Well, yeah, what conditions we would put on it? We would, no, not ask that way. We would say to the applicant, we're concerned about erosion and degrading the area around that. Come up with something that won't allow that. And we'd
Right.
like to review that.
Yeah.
And then when we approve, we'll put conditions on it.
Well, and also I want to see maintenance of whatever the solution is, because given the amount of activity I think we expect, I don't know how it will stand up. But one thing at a time, the first thing is get the information we asked for and then make a decision on location.
Yeah, so where it is right now, and just think about how to, I'm just gonna say simply hardscape it so we don't get that muddy, mucky, maybe in a rainstorm runs off in the back. And that could be a lot of things. We're gonna let you design that.
Yeah.
Or think about that, and then the other requests.
Well then, okay, can I have a motion to continue? Do you want to say the next meeting, Mike?
Sure.
Okay. Which is February 26th.
I move to continue this hearing to February 26th.
This is Tony, I'll second.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you guys. Have a nice night.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, so next one is the right of way from Keolis. I will read the blurb because it's my favorite thing to do.
You want me to read the blurb?
You talk too much as it is. Okay, open the public hearing on a request for determination of authority filed by Keolis under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL Chapter 131, Paragraph 40, and or Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes maintenance, control, and maintenance activities for the years 2026 to 2030. All the work is within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, and on the Conservation Division page under Project by Year. Assessors Map 20, Lot 53. Is that DEP 20? Is that missing the DEP?
Assessors map, Keolis right away. So assessors map 20, lot 53. This is an RDA, so we don't get a file number from.
Gotcha, okay.
So it's 2025-1.
Okay. Having said that, is there anybody out there who's going to walk us through this?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Matt Donovan from Finish.
Yes, we can.
Matt, can I just put something up first? And could you explain this? This is the exemption email that you sent me. I just want it out there. So if we could just talk about this so it's in the record, how you're exempt from the local bylaw. So let.
Yeah, so Keolis, because it's MBTA property, the question had come up if we notified the abutters, and that's a local bylaw for RDAs for the abutters to be notified, and MBTA as a political subdivision of the Commonwealth is exempt from local bylaws and fees.
Yeah, so if I may, so so Keolis has presented this statement, and they bring this to every town. And through the Wetlands Protection Act, a request for determination of applicability is subject to notification, but only through the local newspaper with certain circulation. But we make that with our local newspaper. So 10.05 3B says that the applicant must meet the advertising criteria and advertise in a local newspaper, but it doesn't say anything about sending out individual legal notices to abutters within 100 feet, 200 feet. So that's silence. That doesn't have to happen. And the local bylaw exemption is in the local bylaw is where we find that additional requirement that's added by the towns, which is to notify individual households that are within 100, or within this town, it's 300 feet of the project. But that brings us to the third point, which this is not really a project. This is a review. This is more or less in the Wetlands Protection Act, since it's under the agriculture, herbicide application, road maintenance. We're only reviewing the maps, and so therefore the linear project for more than 1,000 feet does not apply. So in this one here has come to town a few times since I've been here. I think this might be the third time. And, typically our role is to look at the railway from one end of town to the other, talk about any changes that we know about, an additional vernal pool, additional sensitive area, maybe an area that needs more treatment. And we asked to be left alone in a previous version of this. And then Matt will talk about, the particulars of what that team does, whether they do it every year, whether they do it every other year, or whether there are no restrictions on that. So the maps that we received tonight show those three things. Maintenance every other year, maintenance every year, and no restriction areas, which don't have any colors at all on them. So Matt, that was a long way of getting to the point, but I did want to bring this letter into the record, and I appreciate your patience.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that cleared it up well. Is there any other?
Stop screen sharing, and you can, I don't know if you have any of this information you want to put up. You want to put up the maps, or you want me to put up the maps? Doesn't matter.
I was going to pull up the maps, but if you want to, that's the same thing for me. And I don't know if you have any questions regarding specific areas later. Maybe it'd be easier for you to control it. But I'd be happy to. I have it ready here if you'd like.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I'll let you say the rest. So
You're doing, it's like you've done this before.
All right, so if you can see those, these are the maps that we've
Can you
submitted.
make that as large as, I mean, a lot larger than you have there? Just key in on work here. That's pretty good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I can go through these after I give a little presentation of like what's included and show the rest of the pages because it does go on to several pages. But for now, this RDA is to confirm the accuracy of the maps, as Chuck mentioned, used with the herbicide application along the commuter rail right of way. The RDA is submitted to your commission every 5 years as required by CMR 11, and it's required to get these determinations before submitting the 5-year vegetation plan to Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. I'm happy to go over with the work that's mentioned here in the RDA and what's done each year relating to chemical application. But as Chuck mentioned, the RDA is specific to confirming the accuracy of the maps. Your commission will have the opportunity to weigh in on the plan during the VMP review process. That will be submitted to MDAR in mid to late summer. The vegetation management plan is designed to manage and control vegetation to keep the railroad operation safe. Regulations are in place to keep the sensitive areas protected throughout the duration of the plan. And these sensitive area restrictions can be found in CMR 11.04 as well as our vegetation management plan. The maps here are made for the chemical portion of the plan, but often dictate where mechanical methods will be used due to chemical restrictions. There are 2 main chemical applications each year. One that happens in the May to June timeframe, and this targets specifically the roadbed, and one that happens in August, September timeframe that targets the brush areas adjacent, the brush in the areas adjacent to the roadbed. The sensitive areas marked with the blue and yellow only receive the roadbed application, so that's what I'll focus on because that's the only program that takes place near these sensitive areas. The roadbed application is performed by a spray truck that is a high rail vehicle that drives on the track and is equipped with nozzles that on the backside of it located about 18 inches above the ground that sprayed the solution directly down onto the track. The truck has booms that extend out to target the shoulders of the roadbed up to 12 feet from the center of track. The certified applicator is always accompanied by an environmental monitor, familiar with the site conditions and equipped with these maps, instructing the operator as necessary. The applicator has the ability to turn all the nozzles off, or in many cases, just one or both of the side booms. So the mixture only sprays directly down onto the track and not onto the shoulders where it may be getting into the buffer zone of a sensitive area. The yellow zones typically represent when the track is within 22 feet of a wetland boundary. And I say 22 feet because the boom supplied the mixture 12 feet from the center line. And it's critical to keep that 10-foot buffer from the sensitive areas to conform with the regulations. In the yellow zones, they typically don't receive any treatment. However, in some cases, the track will be sprayed directly down up to the edge of the tie. This is done at the applicator and environmental monitor's discretion, as long as it's done within the regulations. The blue zones typically represent being within 100 feet of sensitive areas, and these zones typically receive a full roadbed treatment, but the environmental monitor and applicator are on alert to shut the booms off if there's any areas adjacent or on the shoulder that are wet, including if there's water in the ditches. They'll shut those booms off to not apply in those areas. The light blue zones can be sprayed every 1 year, which is the minimum interval in conformance with the regulations, and dark blue zones, which are typically more water supply areas, can only be sprayed once every 2 years for this roadbed treatment, which is the minimum interval. In these blue and yellow zones, due to the limited spray, more effort is put into controlling the vegetation with physical and mechanical measures. The chemicals that are used each year are typically chosen by the certified applicator in coordination with Keolis. With that said, all chemicals are from the approved sensitive area material list provided by Mass Department of Agricultural Resources. We we include this mixture in the yearly operational plan that we send to your commission every year. And with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions and go through these maps. If not, we're seeking a positive 2A and a negative determination as your commission has issued in the past.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I have a question about the letter. The letter that we have in front of us from Mass DOT, from the way it was explained, has absolute exemption from local bylaws and local fees. We received a similar letter from the same applicant from MBTA Keolis a couple of meetings ago. That's a little bit different than that. We received the last letter that we received, which is part of the application and on the website, is dated July 26, 2012. And there's a paragraph at the end of page 2. It says, well, MBTA's immunity from municipal bylaws is firmly established. This exemption is not absolute. A municipal bylaw regulation can apply to an exempt entity in the very limited circumstances where that regulation serves an important purpose and would either have no effect at all or merely negligible effect on the entity's ability to fulfill its essential government function. So it seems like this applicant is giving us two different interpretations, and I'm a little confused now which one we're supposed to follow.
What letter are you?
He's actually referring to a decision from, I forget which court. The decision was sent to us for a previous hearing that we had a couple of weeks ago.
So Matt doesn't have that letter.
You know what?
Matt doesn't have the letter.
That's what I was
No,
wondering.
but it's the same applicant ultimately.
Right, so
So
I want to speak.
we have an applicant that at two separate hearings has submitted two.
No, I'm just
separate
saying
opinions.
I should provide that letter to Matt so he can answer the question. I mean, it maybe not tonight, but he wasn't able to review this.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take a look.
I do see one isn't one has the MBTA and the other one says Keolis.
Yeah, the other one, I think, is only in.
Not that,
Yeah,
MBTA's operator.
no, you exactly right, but I'm not sure they were reviewed by the same person, but what are the differences that you see?
The more recent letter that we have in front of us appears to state that the exemption is absolute. It doesn't mention that it's not absolute the way that the previous letter does. The previous letter gives circumstances where a bylaw could be invoked if it's significant and if it doesn't impede their function. So I'm just bringing that up because maybe they're, in the possibility that maybe we have a bylaw that we'd like to consider in implementing this, or but also in terms of a precedent.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for the applicant, but the difference, I believe, is this letter we're looking at tonight is stating the regulation. What you're talking about last time was a decision that the court made in response to a town or a city pushing back on that exemption. And in that decision, the judge wrote that the exemption is not absolute, and then the conditions you talked about. So it's not really two different views. There's this view, which is the rules. And the other one is, here's how a judge interpreted it when it was challenged.
But if we felt then that if there was a circumstance that our bylaw needed to cover, we'd be able to do that.
Given the conditions that you talked about, yes. Okay.
Right.
I just want to clarify in the blurb that Brian read, there were the words maintenance used a few times. Is that only maintenance of the vegetation? And we're not talking about any sort of maintenance of mechanical engines or anything like that, diesel trains on the track in Reading?
Yes, this RDA is specific to vegetation management. I mean, it's specific to confirming the maps accuracy used for vegetation management plan. So it's limited to the work that's in the vegetation management plan, which only is vegetation management. Yeah, so nothing like mechanical, like trains or anything like that.
Okay. And you've said that we are not discussing the particulars of the vegetation management tonight because that comes up at another hearing?
Yeah, the actual work itself, we're required to get these determinations of the accuracy of the wetland boundaries before we're even able to submit the vegetation management plan to the DAR as it's permitted at that state level. Once we get these determinations, we submit the vegetation management plan, we notify your commission, the DAR notifies your commission. There's a 45-day comment period. And it goes through a board of people a board made up of people from the DEP, the DAR, MACC, I believe. And at that point they either approve, deny, or request modifications to the vegetation management plan. But in that process, there's a 45-day comment period where any issues regarding or concerns regarding the work can be brought up.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like what we should be doing tonight is having Matt go through his series of pictures and have us understand where the wetlands are compared to the tracks.
Yeah.
I've got one other question before, and this is for my own information. Does this vegetation plan apply only to living vegetation, or does it include clearing out piles of leaves that may be clogging up a culvert, or removal of snags or large branches?
Yeah, if there's ever, I mean, it's in Keolis's best interest to keep the drainage working properly. So if there's ever culverts or ditches that aren't working properly, they do have maintenance activities included where they would go in and clear ditches and clear culverts and
yeah, a separate plan, or I'm just curious if the vegetation plan is only for cutting back living, growing vegetation, and if the other type of maintenance falls under a different type of plan.
No, I maintaining ditches and culverts does fall within the vegetation management plan.
Thank you.
Anything? Walter, anything? Okay, so before we go back to Matt, I have a couple of questions in particular. The first is, I'm wondering when these maps were created, and before you answer, because there was recently some significant work done at the Millette Soms and Morgan Conservation Area, which is up by Willow Street. It's like the last map in your display.
It's three or four.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering what this depicts. I mean, I don't know for a certainty that any of the boundaries changed. I don't know they didn't. So I'm wondering when this was created.
So the actual maps and delineations were created back whenever the origination of the management plan was created, which is back in like the late 80s, I believe. However, these maps have been updated throughout the years. We've increased the scale of them. We've gone out. I was personally out in the field in this area, putting new markings down as the old ones fade away. So these markings have been updated within the last year. And as you mentioned, whether or not the wetlands would have changed in this area, they would still, even if they did change slightly the boundary of these wetlands, it wouldn't change the markings in the field as far as dark blue, blue or yellow. In this area.
That doesn't change the character of the vegetation. Right, because the work that was done, they worked on the Abidjona River where it ran through that conservation area. They created storage pools to hold stormwater surges for a while. But in the course of doing that, it is certainly possible that the extent of it may have changed. And so you said that it was done in the last year. That work was finished mid this year, or earlier this year. So these maps may not capture whatever that work ended up doing to the boundaries. And I don't know what that is. So would you think that would be covered in this conversation? Would that be part of the vegetation management plan?
Well, that would be part of the maps. So you're saying in this area, there's areas along the track that may have either come closer or further away from the track, shifted.
On the right-hand side of the track, where the cursor is, for example, that channel is cleared going under the track. The wetlands going down to the southeast in that view may have extended. There's a beaver dam in there, which has constricted the flow to some extent. I don't know what the cumulative effect is. And so that's all I can say. I don't know what it is. I don't know that there's not an effect though.
So yeah, whether or not you're saying basically this green outline boundary of the wetland may have shifted slightly from this new wetland.
And if it was going to shift, it most likely would move to the southeast, just because there's a road at top, and I don't think it'd go up beyond it, but I think it's most likely, if it happened, it went to the southeast.
Right. And what I'm saying is it very well may have, and that would change the outline, the green line. But it wouldn't change the actual markings in the field. They would still continue to stay dark blue. So it's still delineated correctly in terms of the zone for chemical application. For it to constitute a yellow zone, it would have to come up right at the wetland itself would have to come pretty much right up within 20 feet of the track.
Let me ask this, the two different colors blue, one is a 2-year interval and one is a 1-year interval.
Correct.
What determines which one is selected?
So it's dark blue in this area specifically for the DEP zone 2, which is a water supply area.
I see.
But if it wasn't for this pink outline DEP's zone 2, this would all just be a regular light blue color through here.
I understand. I didn't realize that's what it was. I thought it was actually trying to identify sensitive areas and certain vegetation. Okay, one more question. If you go to the very first map, so 1 of 4. So that yellow swath is labeled as a zone A. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, let me pull that up just so I don't misspeak. I have that. Um,
But is that a DEP designation?
yeah, I think it has to do with also has to do with water supply area. Let me go back to my map. I just don't want to misspeak. I know that the actual
So no, that's a zone 2. Yeah. All I have is a surface water protection area. All right, so let's go with that thought. That is, broadly speaking, surface water protection area. Can you go back to the map, please?
yeah.
Okay, so on that swath, you can see where the track goes down to the southeast. About halfway through the swath, it changes from one type of control to another. Can you tell me why that is?
So I believe the yellow is yellow here because it's within, there's a culvert here and it's within, I think the yellow is for the actual green wetland itself. And as you can see, there's a wetland right up against the track for this whole length from Wakefield to the center of the swath.
So you're saying it's coincidence that it happens to change in the middle of that yellow ribbon? Because it
Well, the
goes,
yellow, I mean, it's you can see the green line end right where the yellow to blue changes.
right, so that's up against the mound of the track itself.
Yeah, this is basically saying the wetland is within 22 feet of the center line of track. And in this area, they probably wouldn't spray at all, depending on how close that wetland does come to the center of track. If it's closer than, if it's closer than 12 feet from the center of track, they won't spray anything. But if it's like, if it's between 12 and 22 feet from the center of track, they may elect to only spray directly down onto the actual ties themselves.
Yeah, it's just that going up to the northwest, the yellow line ends right at the boundary of the wetlands. So I don't know how that provides the margin you're just talking about. Because it seems like that's the end of the wetlands and bang, you start spraying, inches later, to overstate it.
You mean,
I'm wondering, so right where the light blue, yellow intersection is, where one ends and the other begins, that's also where the boundary for the wetland is, right?
right?
So I would have expected, if it's a no spray zone within a certain distance of the wetland, that it would have extended further away from that corner rather than stopping right on that corner.
Yeah, I think it does extend slightly past it. And
not-
obviously there's a stream here too. I mean, this could be an area that we can review in the field as well, because it does come close. I don't know how it looks like an intermittent stream here that continues beyond the wetland. So maybe that would constitute an extension of the yellow zone on this south side of the track.
Yeah.
However, I think I would imagine it's delineated accurately from what the actual field conditions are. And it's kind of hard to tell from this, just looking at this map, knowing how close you are to that wetland from the center line of track.
The problem is that we are in the position where we're reviewing the maps. And what you're saying is the map may not be given accurate, a perfect view of it, that the conditions in the field may supersede what we're seeing on the map. So then it's hard to review this if the map isn't going to be the gold standard, if you will.
No, I mean, I think it is. And we're definitely open to your review. That's why we've submitted these maps for your review. And if there was any areas in the field that you want to take a closer look at, we would have been happy to go look at them. Whether it was before this meeting or past this meeting. It's something that we definitely can look into. We want these to be as accurate as possible, as they are used for pretty sensitive work to be done, and we're just as aware of that as your commission is. So we do want them to be accurate. What I'm saying is, I think it is accurately portrayed. It does look like the wetland does get very close to the track in this area, and I'm not sure. Yeah, it could be worth looking at in the field, is what I'm saying.
Martha.
Moving a little further northwest on that track.
Yep.
Just where New Crossing Road crosses. Somewhere in there is a gas station, which we've just been working with. And there's definitely a wetland between the gas station and the propane gas kind of place. If you zoom in, it might be easier to see that, but I'm wondering if that's not marked on this map. So New Crossing Road, so we want to go closer to 128.
Shell
New
stations.
Crossing Road. Is it off the page?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think it's on.
Shell station's down towards the end of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
down to the,
so isn't the Shell station in Reading? So does this page not include?
It's right at Walker's Brook and a little past New Crossing.
Okay.
It's down without like the green circle, like the market basket.
so that white.
Chuck,
roof-
are you controlling this?
No,
Okay, Matt, can you move it so we can see the lower right corner better? Okay, so there's the Wakefield line.
So that white roof, that's Nika's building?
Okay, so that's the task, the
It
old
would be
task.
the upper right corner then. You're
Um,
talking about the gas station.
No, the gas station is further to the right than that old task building.
okay, and the big wide yellow highlighted stripe,
Yeah,
is that property boundary between Reading and Wakefield or what?
no,
what
no,
is that?
that's the zone A that I've been.
The
asking.
zone A,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
So where would our gas station be? Would it be off the page to the right?
no,
Where
no,
it says
because that's
Wakefield?
Wakefield. I suspect it's right where that,
It's more
Well-
upper right.
Oh, the natural gas, like that little,
you're talking about the gas station or
Yeah.
the
It's,
Boston.
it's
Yeah.
talking
Further-
the natural gas or the gas station?
following New Crossing
In
Road.
between the two of them.
All right, so if you begin a New Crossing,
New Crossing Road, follow that further up, and it's on the right.
right? Right up there,
Oh, it's on Walker's Brook.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, okay.
There's a big white splotch. And it's
Yeah.
further up north of that. You can see the wetlands lines.
Yeah. Okay,
So I'm looking at a different map that I pulled up on my computer. It's the Mass DEP. I use the Mass DEP Bureau of Waste Site Cleanup Phase 1 site assessment map, which shows a bunch of different layers and a bunch of natural resources. And from what I'm looking at, Brian, it looks like, based on Mass DEP's map, which may be different from what's actually in the field, but based on the remote sensing, the wetland line ends about halfway through the zone 1, where the color change was, that you were just discussing. As you proceed to the northwest toward New Crossing, that appears to be 100-year floodplain.
Yeah. I understand now why I was confused. I was looking at the railroad track and thinking of it as Walker's Brook Drive. And south of the railroad track is the Reading DPW yard, and also there's a business there. The larger white rectangle that's at the very upper right is the building that used to be Task.
Yeah.
And we walked in from Walker's Brook Drive to do a site visit for the gas company, natural gas.
Okay,
And then we have the gas station right near where the word Brook says. Okay,
so
I think you do have that accurately marked as a wetland then.
Okay. And someone else was going to say something?
yeah, I was ruminating. So what would be involved if there were to be a check of this in the field? Is that something that we would be involved in, or is that something that somebody from your end would be doing?
So it's definitely something we could involve you. I'd be happy to go out there on my own and kind of assess the situation and come back to your commission with photos and a new suggestion of delineation if it does constitute a change in what we think the marking should be. I think if anything, you would extend. I'm going to go to another page real quick just to show you what the new marking would look like if it does constitute it. So similar to here, where it's dark blue and yellow on one side.
Yeah.
It would be this same concept, except light blue with yellow on one side.
Yeah, I understand.
Kind of to extend this yellow, because obviously this wetland on the north side of the track here, it doesn't extend. There's no intermittent stream. I mean, maybe there is, but from the looks of it, there's no wetland on the north side, and you would just be kind of trying to conform to this intermittent stream on the south side. And like I said, I was out here in 2024, just last year, and I put this marking here, and I was making sure they were all in conformance with anything obvious. So I may not have looked at this area careful enough, but I was very cognizant of my surroundings throughout this all these site visits. I was going on several site visits a month to get these markings back in the field. So if that's something you'd like me to do, I'd be happy to set up a trip down there. At the same time, I wouldn't mind still trying to get a determination tonight to kind of move this along.
Yeah.
With having that as a condition, if that's amenable for you and your commission.
That is fine for me. The commission obviously has to make its own decision, but yeah, that would be good. I'm not questioning your competence, though it may seem that way. I just didn't understand exactly what that picture was showing. So, yeah, if you could do that and submit your findings to Chuck, and if your findings are as you expect them to be, that there's no change, great. And if there's a change, what would that mean if there were a change and we had already done a negative determination? Chuck, is that possible to do a negative determination, the condition that may reopen it?
You could update the map. You certainly could do that.
That's true. Yeah, that wouldn't be,
But you could make a determination or finding that you've approved everything except for this one area, and you're looking for more input, and when that comes in.
okay, so I at least have beat this dead for a while. Does anybody else have any other questions? Seeing none, Chuck, do you have any comments, questions?
No, I don't. I know that there's a floodway there. I think you have a river, an intermittent stream, a wetland. Seems like there's a lot of things happening in that area. Good spot to check. If you've just been out there, it seems to me that it would be pretty quick for you just to review that quickly and then get back to the commission.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, we'd be happy to do so. Like I said, we want these to be as accurate as possible. I do have high confidence in the applicator and the environmental monitor that even if these weren't, that I think they would catch anything in the field anyway, but you want these maps to be as accurate as possible. So I want to portray what's actually there, and have them be ready for it.
okay. Ben, is there any comments from anybody either in the room or online?
We've only looked at this one section of track.
Oh, that's a good point. I looked.
Shouldn't we look at more pages?
Sure, Matt, that's fine. If you want, why don't you walk us through each of your maps and.
So this is page 2. As you can see, there's no wetlands until the wetland adjacent to the middle school, and that would all be covered by this blue zone here, which is 100 feet, 100-foot boundary from the wetland, which there will be no brush spray here. It'll only be the roadbed application.
Just say there's somebody keeps talking on the phone. Can we get that muted?
If you're out there online, can you mute, please?
I can just mute that.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
I figured he was trying. Okay, Matt, back to you.
Yeah, Matt, can you stop sharing the screen just for 1 second so I can understand who's here and who's muted and not? I think it's this one here.
It was the 978
Yeah,
phone number.
That's okay, Walter.
I don't know who that is.
Jacob Walters on it.
No,
Just don't say the name, the word number.
All right, so it sounds like that's taken care of. If you want me to continue.
yep,
Please.
All right. So this is a fairly standard wetland. It has to be blue within 100 feet of the wetland, so they won't be spraying the brush application, which extends further out from the roadbed. Here you have more. Oh, we went through this page already. I don't know why this area is blue. But it's more conservative than not. In this area, I don't see any wetlands here, but it's almost for the blue represents a restriction where they can only do the roadbed application here. So maybe there is more wetland than there looks like in this area, but they won't. It's more conservative than not, and maybe it's just an extension of this wetland that you see down in the south portion.
Yeah,
That's the part we walked recently. All right.
yes.
And then the rest of your town is controlled by the DEP Zone 2, which is the strictest restriction we have as far as spraying, other than a yellow culvert here or bridge. And these wetlands must creep up pretty close to the track if this is yellow on the left side. So we cover this, and we won't be spraying out into the shoulder of the south side of the track in this portion.
What
From what I
does
see,
that represent?
2-year interval.
Okay.
yeah, so if there's any areas where you have additional questions on or concerns, I'm happy to zoom in.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Anybody else? Right. Anybody in the general public? If you have anything to say, find the reactions on the lower right and use the raise hand function, please. Okay. Given that, then I think it's a good time to move on. Can I have a motion to close this hearing?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, Matt, what you're asking for us to make a determination, you said a positive 2B?
No, I think we want a negative determination, and a lot of times towns will supplement that with a positive 2A determination. And the 2A would be confirming the maps. And the negative determination is exempting us from having to submit an NOI for this. So I think last, I know we got a negative determination from your commission last 5 years ago when this came through. I'm not sure exactly what number it was, but it's usually a -2, 3, or 5, exempting us from having to submit an NOI for this work.
In your application, it says you're asking us to consider a negative number 5 determination citing exemptions 1003 6B and 1058 6A. So at least in this document is saying a negative number 5 determination.
Yeah, that sounds good with us. And I mean, we would also like to have a positive 2A for safe measure, if your commission is comfortable with issuing that.
Read those.
Yeah, sure.
-5 is the area described in the request is subject to jurisdiction under the act. Since the work described herein meets the requirements of the following exemption as specified in the act and the regulations, no notice of intent is required. That's a -5. And then 2A. The boundary delineation of the following resource area described on the reference plans are confirmed as accurate. Therefore, the resource area boundaries confirmed in this determination is binding as all decisions rendering pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act and the regulations regarding such boundaries for as long as this determination is valid, which is 3 years. Well, yeah. Is that what this, so we're running 3 years on these, or you're running further?
It's 5 years, and the actual determination itself, the determination form down near the signatures, it says all determinations are good for 3 years, and then it says there's like in parentheses, and I'm not using the exact language, but it says except for RDAs for right-of-way vegetation management plans, where it lasts for the duration of the plan, which is 5 years.
I'll take your word for it. I can't find that real quick.
It's on the actual, the form, the determination form,
Yeah, Form 2.
Form
Not
2,
in-
yeah.
Signatures, so it says appeal and it says 3 years, yeah, here, determination is valid for 3 years. The date of issuance, except for determinations for vegetation management plans which are valid for the duration of the plan, so. There you go.
Yeah. Okay,
So this question that Brian is asking about, how does that impact whether we can close and issue tonight?
so I believe the understanding is that Matt's gonna go out there and look at it. If he finds that the map is accurate as it is, then there's no change from our closing and voting tonight. If he does see a change, the condition we put in would require him to up the map, but the determination would still stand.
Okay. So I move to close this hearing.
This is Tony. I'll second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rodalakis in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, can I have a motion?
I move for a positive 2A and a negative RDA for 5 years.
Second that?
Michelle second.
Walter?
Walter?
Oh, I didn't hear the second, sorry. Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rodalakis in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. And you're all set with that condition, right, Matt?
Yeah, Matt, I'll hold off on sending that out until I hear from you.
Yeah, it should be within the next couple of weeks. I'll keep you updated though on exactly when I can get out there. It might be based on weather too, with like snow and everything.
All right,
So I'll keep you updated, but I'm definitely happy to fulfill that condition and make sure that these are in conformance with the regulations.
Sure, can you state that you waive the 21-day requirement and that you will, I don't know, add additional, I mean, it doesn't sound like you know when you're going out. So what if I said a month? So it's a month and 21 days. So we have 41 days. Do I have that right? 30, 40, 51 days. Teacher, thank you.
Yeah, I can definitely shoot to get it done before then. I do waive the 21-day condition. And I will definitely keep you
Allow
updated.
the
But
extension of 51 days.
okay, yeah, we'll do that.
And if it comes in earlier, we'll just send it out earlier, but
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Okay.
Okay, next one is 0 Vine Street. This is a continuation of a public hearing. This is a situation where the applicant has asked for continuance until February 26th. Can I have a motion?
I move to continue the hearing on 0 Vine Street to February 26th.
This is Tony. I second.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Tony Rodalakis in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. That's it for our hearings tonight. Next is old new business violation notices. The only one where there's been any activity is 445. Chuck, why don't you give us an update on that?
I have not heard from the owner or either one of the Mr. or the dad, Jack Rivers. So, but they understand that they're supposed to be updating the plan and giving it back to the Conservation Commission. I don't know the reason why we don't have that update.
Okay, so then what are our options going forward from here? We could continue to wait.
Yeah, I have to say that they usually get back to me. I'm not sure the reason why. You know, there's three people. I haven't heard from Jack in a couple of years, but I usually hear from Michael or his wife. And I haven't. And so it's unusual. They might be traveling, I'm not sure. But there's usually what I would say good communication.
I agree that I've heard them reach out to you many times. So again, our options are to continue to wait, hope that there's some communication. An alternative to that is to begin the fine process. This is already an enforcement order, so we don't have that level to escalate it to. I tell you what, I'll stop talking for a minute. And what do you guys think?
On one hand, it's been a long time. On the other hand, it's been a cold 3 or 4 weeks in terms of getting anything done in the field, but we're just looking for an updated plan.
Right. We're not looking for field work until we approve what the field work is.
So we're looking for an updated plan because Martha and I went out there to say that what was done was not according to the approved plan. And while we were there, Jack and his son, Mike, who's a property owner, talked to us and said they'd like to submit an amended plan, a change of plan. We, in the end, agreed that they could very soon thereafter. It is past that deadline at this point. And by deadline, that's too strong a word. It wasn't a date certain. It was, here's your target.
I think they promised us either a January meeting or the first February meeting, and they would have had to submit it a week before the first February meeting.
A conversation.
So-
So they've missed that date regardless of how certain it was. So yes, it's been cold. As you said, this has been going on a long time. This started before I was on the commission. By the time I got on the commission, it was already an enforcement order. One of my first site visits was to go there to review with the engineer, I think it is, from Williams and Sparagus, that was reviewing the plan to rectify what had been done. So this is 5 years in the making or
What are we
something.
waiting for?
What are we waiting for? We're waiting for them to do it, the way we asked them to do it.
You gotta do something.
So we were expecting it the last,
I mean, 5 years, I mean, it's not like weeks.
but we haven't had a firm
Been called for
deadline.
Years, I
We have a
mean.
firm deadline for the next meeting. And from there, we escalate.
Blatant neglect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
So say again what you were suggesting.
One more meeting, it's the third strike, right? We were expecting something at the end of January, the first meeting of February, with the admission that the date wasn't fixed. But if we give them a fixed date, the next meeting, and if we don't have the plan by the next meeting, then they're on notice for an escalation.
I started in December, it was brought up then.
Yeah.
And that's 3 months in 5 years. I mean,
Yeah. So,
get to a point that you have to,
and I think the
something.
escalation is that we start finding $100 a day. Is that the next step? And I would say we would do that if Chuck doesn't have a plan a week before the next meeting.
Certain time
So
for us to review.
Feb 19 or Feb
I'm the
18.
most lenient guy in the world, but eventually 5 years is 5 years.
Walter, you have anything you want to jump in with?
I think anything without a firm date is worthless. And also teeth on the back end. So I would be in favor of the date, as you just recommended, a week before the 26th. And then, sure, $100 a day from there on in.
So before we vote or decide on that, Chuck, what did the last letter say to them? Was that not a date certain with some teeth on the back end?
the last enforcement order or the last?
The updated enforcement order.
So it just asked them to finalize their plan and submit it to the Conservation Commission before this meeting.
So without teeth on the back end.
Yeah.
Yes.
If they don't do that by the 26th, then you can go forward with the fines.
All right.
So I can update it again and I can call them and I can email them, but I can also update another one and say, if you don't deliver to the commission what they're asking for, the fines will start.
Yeah, I mean, I've stated my opinion a number of times, which is there's no point in having regulations. if
It's
you're
not
not gonna
unfair. I
enforce
mean,
them.
five,
It's been a long time. I will go along with one more. It's like I said to my dog, that's it, no more.
last time.
So
Right.
if we.
I didn't realize it was 5 years. I mean, if it was,
Started before.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not about finding people, but I mean, you gotta be to a point that
so
There were some
don't, then,
extenuating circumstances that dragged it out that far.
still 5 years.
But those circumstances are done. And I'm just gonna state for the record that I think the longer it takes them to come back with their revised plan, the less likely I am to accept it.
they're not taking it seriously.
Right.
Okay, so then can I have a motion to authorize Chuck to update the enforcement order as we've discussed?
So moved.
Second,
This is Tony, I second.
Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Michelle in favor.
Tony Whitlock is in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay. Chuck, in case you had nothing to do.
Yeah.
All right, next is under discussion items. First topic is the upcoming Conservation DPW monthly meeting for February 4th.
Which was
Yeah,
a week
that's
ago.
incorrect.
Are we gonna discuss what happened on February 4th?
I thought we were planning for the next one. That's a good point. Not easy. Do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, I think, we always talk about it, a bunch of different things. There was an agenda. I don't have it in front of me, but most importantly, the DPW wants to start submitting notice of intent applications for cleaning out the area in front of culverts. So picking up whatever sand comes off the road, and it may go out 5 feet. I don't know how deep it is, 5 inches deep, 10 inches deep, but they want to kind of craft that area to be, I guess, a better stormwater player. So the question also came up, how many can they submit at one time? One at a time for each culvert spot. And apparently there's a bunch, 17, 18. Maybe they're thinking about doing 4 notices of intent. So we wanted to know how many they could combine. And so they encouraged me to reach out to DEP. And DEP is not in favor of this kind of work. So after I reached out, this is what I heard. 2 things. You can combine as many as you want. And I think that they're trying to get you to go over the threshold for, the Army Corps threshold and so then there's more review. There may be a water quality review that also has a threshold. So these are all things that the DPW needs to think about. It's the engineer department, so they'll understand all these thresholds. They want to not, impact. Yeah. So that's a project that's coming up, and I think it would be interesting to go and see them first, like when the warmer weather comes, if we could do a site visit with the DPW and see what we're talking about. And there might be a more pragmatic solution to this. We do have a townwide maintenance permit that covers culvert cleaning, but not any cleaning within the channel or bank. So just end to end of the culvert. That's all I can think of.
If I can just add a little more color, what they're thinking is if they scooped out, my word, a little bit by the mouth of the culvert that would allow the natural flow of the water to push out anything that might be in the culvert and give it a place to settle. That's their thinking.
Off the road.
Yeah, they probably do, and they have a lot of easements for all the waterways.
Be on them anyway.
What's that? What do you mean beyond that?
But, I mean, if it was within 10 feet, they would own it, right?
They do own it, but they do need a permit. So even though they own it, they're required to maintain all the waterways, and this is like an issue. I don't know if it's something they've been doing, but, I looked at one area with Mike Kessman off of, Pleasant Street. Pleasant Street, right near the, park. So there's a crossing right there. And there was a lot of sediment there. And it looked like a couple of the, culverts were filled or they had some problems. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. But as it turns out, that's not one they want to do. So,
You wonder what kind of shape the ones they do want to do are in.
yeah. So I'm not sure what to look at, but what I saw on that one there was it was so obvious that it was sand and it was from runoff and it had accumulated and it was above the culverts. I wonder what the commission would think about these, and the work that needs to be done. I think it'd be great to see them before they come in. So anyways, we talked about that. We talked about the broken water pipes and Mike Kessman was here and you could have asked your question about how often does this happen? I think what we're getting is just more information from the DPW.
That's what I was wondering.
But it would be a great question for Mike Kessman when he comes back.
There've been 5 reported in the past few weeks.
Is there something different? It's just, as I understand it, it's the freeze and thaw cycle. That's all.
What they said at the meeting was, it's been cold and the core of the water system is whatever, 100+ years old.
Yeah.
And so some things get cold and freeze, some things that are old and break. Well, that's what they said, but it's been a lot. And it's possible it's been happening all along and I just wasn't in a position to hear about it, but it's been a lot. Okay. Anything else? I think that was it for that real conversation.
We jump to administrator's report.
Sure, go ahead.
There's going to be some tree trimming at Morton Field. We walked the site with Mike Hannaford and his foreman. His name is Aaron. And Aaron was full of information, very helpful. Had some good suggestions. We talked about things like when you write these reports, some of this terminology I don't understand. So they had raise, 3-inch elm. And so my obvious question to me was, how far are we raising these things? What are we talking about here? What does raising mean? And I guess sometimes it's like, you have to understand they're trying to get a lawnmower under it that's like whatever, with an air conditioner on it, so many feet high, 6, 7, 8 feet high. And so they want to raise that. But sometimes it just means any of the limbs that are pointing down, they'll cut those off and leave the rest of the limb. So that may always need to be looked at. There was like 26 trees on this list, so it was well worth it to go out there.
So where's Morton Field?
High school,
Yeah,
baseball field, yeah, it's the big field in the back. But you can't get a vehicle down there, so it's all gonna have to be hand done.
there's a lot of handwork, and with the field frozen, they feel like they can get out there.
I've seen they're not gonna get out there. I can show you pictures of things that are stuck there, ambulances. From baseball kids getting injured, it's so wet,
Yeah,
it's all gonna have to be walked.
yeah. Well, they said there was a lot they're gonna do, but there's a couple of trees that have to come down.
Unless it's now,
Yeah,
but if they wait. Like a
No,
month,
they're
it's
trying to-
not gonna-
I
not
think-
gonna happen.
Anyone behind the fence, or are they gonna stay on the field?
That field is pristine. I mean, the guys that take care of it are nuts. So, but for vehicles to get out there,
they're so
I was there,
nuts.
there was a kid got hurt. There was an ambulance that got stuck that get towed out.
Yeah, they're so nuts. They
Ugly.
actually, they had to like manufacture a better pitcher's mound one day. So they went to the stream and dug out some material
That was equal to the field.
that and popped it into the pitcher's mound, and there was this big cavity dug. So it's all about the field. It's all about the next star
My son's coach, I was there.
with this. Yeah. So that got everyone's attention. So
So it's
there's
very
no
wet back
environmental,
there.
there's no environmental
Culvert.
out there.
So what's the next step on that? So
There's no next step. I approve the work. It was a list of a bunch of trees. They were all obvious that something needed to happen. We talked about adding a few, but there wasn't anything that was a concern. The next thing on my list I wanted to talk about is I checked out, I gave a pre-activity to the tree cutting at the National Grid transmission line. That was today. We went up to Glenfield, walked out into the field, very slippery entrance. Got down there, show what they were going to do. I have to go back next week because they stopped just at the Reading line. So there's no work in Reading. There's no erosion control out. They just want to hit this area while it's frozen. So they're dropping in the mats. All the mats are brand new. I've never seen brand new mats, but they all are brand new.
They wood or plastic.
They're wood. Yeah. They're like 8x8s.
Yeah.
Stack of 4 put together. So they're dropping those in place. Sometimes they're cutting the buckthorn and other material that's in front of them. I hadn't seen that before, and I asked them about that, and they said that is typical. I just didn't see it. But so when they were laying things down and they will pop up in the spring, well, actually they're cutting things, not everything, but some things, and it'll just grow out in the spring. So there's going to be another site visit next week or the very early of the following week. Northeast Tree is doing the work. They're topping some of the cedars. They're cutting some of the cedars and other trees. And it seems like their plan is to put the mats down, reach over and cut the stuff. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was,
did you happen to look across the town line to see where they worked
were they,
already, and how's that look?
yeah, it looked all right. There was some stumps and whatnot in the, left out there, but it was pretty clean. They work off the mats. They don't go off the mats. As a matter of fact, there were hardly any tracks, like most people don't get out of the trucks these days. And so there was just a few people, but before they go in there, they send out their forestry crew, the wetland scientist, and someone from Northeast Tree, or it's not Northeast Tree, it's Northern Tree.
Northern Tree. I was
yeah.
gonna say Northeast is different than Northern.
Northern Tree, and they have a bunch of people to walk, and they mark all the trees. X, remove, slash is cap or
Okay.
trim in some way.
Somebody goes
So
out.
they mark all the trees. That's the professionals that go out there, but Northern Tree goes out and just reads what's on
Yeah.
the tree.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay, what's your next item?
So we talked about the Arbor Day. I sent an email to the chairs asking them to go to the meeting, and Martha provided a lot of input. And I thought that it would be great to come to the Town Forest meeting. So we've been invited to the next Arbor Day meeting, which is going to be somehow hosted from the library. This is a library operation, but it's also a DPW operation. Because DPW, I've heard, is paying for the saplings and watering the saplings and for who knows how long. So there's that connection there. So they're making sure these are being taken care of in such a way. And they're also talking about cages or some sort of protection so they don't get eaten. So this might be a little bit different than what's happened in the past.
Mere fact they're going to water is already different.
Yeah, but for how long? So we talked about where these are going to go and where's the best spot, and there wasn't a lot of consensus on where they should start and how that works, and so that might be up in the air. But
Is there any discussion on species?
well, we submitted a list of species, and the pawpaw is something they want. So out of that list, they're going to pick 3. That's what I heard, and they're going to go with 3. But they really want the pawpaw. So this is so it's a common pawpaw. I don't know the scientific name. So
It's not found around
In New
here.
England?
It's
I've
a
seen-
southern
I've seen it in
tree.
Virginia.
They really want the common pawpaw. So, so the list that is not native that they wanted to plant is kind of like what you would find at an arboretum or someone's backyard. And that might answer a lot of questions, you know, right off the start. So, but a suggestion would be to see what's out there and what's growing well and kind of reproduce that.
More of the same.
But I think the concern is for this commission might be the pawpaw. So that's why I'm asking. So my next thing is to say, like, you guys find out if you're available to go there. Any of the commission members, go to this meeting and let's see if we can decide on the 3 species that are going to go out there. It's,
And
we have
why
no
does it have to
control.
be only 3 species? That
That's
seems
what they
like
want. That's what they want.
we're generating another monoculture issue.
That's what I think, that out of 500 and what they want to plant and what they expect to lose, they're thinking 3 species are going to be what they
So we
want.
don't have any jurisdiction. This is advisory, right?
No, in some areas we will have jurisdiction. Will you make your determination? You can say, look, I don't want any of these pawpaws I'm just saying, outside of our jurisdiction, you can't say
They're
anything.
gonna do what they want.
Yeah, it can
We
be,
can advise, but
can be a palm tree, a pawpaw, and a petunia.
or
you know?
sequoia,
Redwood.
that would be good.
Yeah, I did review
enough.
the list they sent us and only 3 of them were officially native trees. The 4th one was swamp white oak, which I think is a native tree, but it's not on the town's native tree list.
Yeah, swamp
But-
goes around.
So
But
who made,
5 of them, so I guess it wasn't a total of 10, but 5 of them were crazy. Meta sequoia. I mean, giant redwood in town forest.
who made the list, you know?
Chuck sent it to me.
I remember that, but I saw your
I think
comment.
it was the town forester who made the list, perhaps. I don't want to be making fun of him, but they're not native trees. There's a black walnut, there's a Siberian spruce. Siberia is not native to
Yeah,
here.
that's it. The name Siberia is a giveaway.
Yeah.
It's like a Japanese maple.
So I sent Chuck back my list, which had 8 or 10 native trees that I thought might be more appropriate.
Is this,
And also the 3 of their trees or 4 that I think would be a good choice.
is this tied at all to the town wanting to become a Tree City USA again?
They are a tree. Did they lose the designation?
I thought so.
They still are.
No,
Well, the certificate out in the hallway is from 15 years ago.
no, I think we are a tree city. I think it has to do with planting and I think
Well,
so.
one of the criteria is that you have to have an Arbor Day activity, a ceremony of some kind is required, as far as one that was tied to that. So
Yeah, so I mean, they're asking us to be involved. They sent it to us. Obviously DPW is more involved. It seems like they saw it and then as courtesy, they sent it to us. And, as always, comments are gonna come from conservation because, we have the insight on what happens within the buffer zone.
Yeah.
And the resource area. So,
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say, one of the trees that was on that list is one that's found further north than here. And so as climate warms, it would be another red pine
all
issue.
over again, yeah.
So I have great concerns about that list. There are a few that I think would be a good choice, but Picea glauca is found further north, and we're just gonna be cutting down dead trees in 20 years.
You can always use snags though.
We got some snags.
That's the optimistic view.
common pawpaw. Okay, well, that's that. And the only other thing that I'm gonna mention is that, so Kathy Kelly's been reaching out, I have to say, every time I've just said, I'm gonna defer to Brian. And, yep, they're in the text, they're in the emails. I'm gonna defer to Brian. And she's asking for, she's brought up a good point. Don't know what we're gonna do about it, but we've changed our rules. People are confused according to Kathy. And that she would like some new signage at all of our kiosks. And to let people know what the requirements are. For instance, before it was dogs under voice control and now it's leash. So,
Yeah, it's a valid point.
yeah. So I just didn't know why no answer had come by. I don't know. I kind of said.
You know why? I was doing a 4+ hour minutes. That's what I've been doing. That was a long meeting.
I was going to give her your address. She was really persistent. You know how that goes.
Oh, yeah, she-
So I think it's something that we should address. I don't know how you want to approach it. I would like to get, because we do this for the Trails Committee too. It's always confusing for them to say, hey, can you just get us some new signs for this, this, and this? It's like, I need another, you know, I don't know, dog rule sign.
So what do you think of essentially doing what the Trails does, where they have a QR code on something on the kiosk? And then you can click on that and find out what the rules are. That would allow us to do changes, modifications to the rules without having to do new signs every time.
I think that came up in some meeting I was in, and they said that that's not very informative. Some people don't have access to that.
For QR.
So I think it's something where you want to write the rules, even some sort of truncated version of the rules, and for more information, QR code, something like that.
If you remember, I did a truncated version before. And
Yeah, Kathy mentioned that and she gave you high praise for that.
But the hunters didn't.
Why did the hunters get mad?
Well.
'Cause there was a
our
bow, there
rules
was an arrow in one of them.
are pretty complex, you know, not on an ash tree and bow and arrow in certain maps. So what I said is, in general, hunting is not allowed. See the Conservation Commissioner for details.
Ah.
And apparently the hunters were up in arms, so to speak, with Chuck about, what do you mean we can't hunt? Other than that, I didn't hear any.
So anyways, that would be a good thing to kind of like, you know, before the next meeting, you know, we'll kind of going to work with like Tim on this. Tim,
I'm just sorry about that. My mother's in hospice. I'm just doing one text.
no problem. Maybe we could appoint someone to work with me on that. And I think what I mean by that is like what Brian did. Brian's been doing a lot. I mean, but maybe there's someone else who wants to do some of this work, which is just to come up with the dog. We have a list. We approved a list. I mean, I could just grab that and turn that into something.
Well, I think the biggest question isn't coming up with the wording, because we just went through that because of Bear Meadow.
Mm.
So that's easy. I think we need to know how many entrances we have to post at. You know, when we're talking the 5 or 6 main areas, you know, Pine Vale, wherever.
So I think the plan with that is it would be nice to, I don't know, I mean, since I've been here, it's been the Trails Committee that really put things inside the kiosks. So what I thought would be very handy is to get, you know, what are they called? Flash file, zip file, you know,
Flash drive.
No. It holds files. It's like all in a line. Speed file, something like that. Well, anyways, get those. It's like an area to hold files, but it's one on top of another, almost like it's booked
Okay.
together.
Oh, like the little, like,
Yeah.
I got you, like the folder.
And fill those up
things.
and you know, I don't know, attach it to the wall at the Trails Committee garage. So they have like 20 of each. As long as we're not gonna change the rules, there'll always be some available for each
So
area.
you're thinking that this information will not be posted on a sign at an entrance like they no dogs in Bear Meadow signs are. You're thinking of something on an existing kiosk.
That's all she asked.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's
and
all.
the Trails members are willing to open the kiosk and put the signs inside?
Well, they have done, but now that we've had this conversation, Brian can, you know, reply to the email and tell her what we're gonna do. or I can.
Does the town have their own sign shop? They make all their own signs?
In the office, we just print it out and then we laminate. We have a laminator.
But if you need to make signs, do they have
The
their
town
own?
does not have their own sign shop. As a matter of
Tell
fact,
me,
everyone
we can
goes
do that,
outside and gets it from different vendors. Some signs are very cheap online and we do
You
that.
can do that, but my cousins, Baden Brothers, Sardella, Connors, whatever. We can have signs made if we need them made.
Yeah.
It's not really.
But I think what Chuck's talking about is not metal signs like the ones we put the no
Right, but
dogs
the
in
flies, if you
metal.
need metal signs or other signage or banners or whatever,
Okay.
reach out to me and then we can do something.
Have you done your ethics course for this year?
Probably not.
Okay, you might want to.
So, yeah, we've been using different companies for those metal signs and
It wouldn't be at a
sometimes
cost, obviously.
sometimes we need them and sometimes we don't. Usually they change a lot. I mean, we're always like 2 years is about as far as we go and the signs have been costing like $70 each. Sometimes they used to be 35, but I mean, I'm thinking they're 50 to 80 now for depending on what sign we're using. But that doesn't matter. I want to have a pool of signs. So when Kathy or someone from the Trails Committee says,
agree.
look, I need A, B, and C, we know what they want. It doesn't need to be updated. And this is going to be same for the Conservation Commission, because we have like restoration areas, all these signs that we've made up. And so a lot of theirs are all set, but it's this dog sign that we have to take care of. And that's going to give you your segue into the dog discussion.
Fair enough. I was gonna go a different segue. In fact, I'm gonna do my segue first. Speaking of my little snidely mark to Tim.
That's fine.
State ethics thing.
It would
Have
be
you all
great.
gotten an email from the state ethics asking you to complete your course on it?
I haven't seen one recently. I
I have not
completed
seen
it
one.
last fall,
The state.
something like
So
that.
I, last fall, they sent one out encouraging you. I got a reminder a week, 2 weeks ago saying, if you haven't done it, do it.
I got one, but they said they didn't need till May 20th.
Yeah, that's fine. I wasn't looking at the date. I was just wondering if everybody got the notification.
I'll check my spam.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, now the other segue is on dogs in Bear Meadow. As you all are aware, effective August, we changed the policy, so no dogs in Bear Meadow. They're still allowed in the other conservation areas, although now on a leash. Anyway, going back to Bear Meadow, there are a number of people who still bring dogs in there. We had been told that a number of them were going in through the Wood End Cemetery. And I have gone there. There are people on dog tracks to the left of the cemetery going to an entrance trail, going into Bear Meadow. Will Finch has been very active in pointing out that when he goes in there, he and his wife go in there, they see people on dogs all the time. And he's making the point that we really should enforce it. As you know, my stance is I agree with it. We really should enforce it. So I reached out to Reading Police to ask to speak to the animal control officer. We don't have one anymore. We currently contract time from the Wakefield animal control officer. Then we reimburse Wakefield for whatever time the guy has to put in, the person has to put in. They then pointed me to health department, saying the health department now is enforcing dog bans, which I didn't understand. But I called the health department. I talked to the director and not entirely helpful. In essence, he commiserated and said Town Forest Committee has the same problem because their dog policy is going to affect the end of this month and they don't know how to enforce it either. I did talk to him. One of the ideas we had circulated was whether or not we could somehow get a police detail for once a week or a certain time a week at a prime period essentially hoping to show the flag and discourage people from doing it. I ran that by him, said, what do you think? And he thinks it's not a good idea, and he doesn't think the Reading Police Department would do it anyway. They wouldn't consider that a good use of law enforcement resources. Was the phrase that he said. I suppose that's possible. Although we had been talking about is, would we actually pay for a detail once a week, once a month, some periodicity? So anyway, we're at the point still where we don't have a solution to that. I was going to sit at the cemetery, hoping to interdict the traffic. I never saw anybody. Saw tracks, not people. The past couple of days, I've gone to all three of the main entrances. So Matera Cabin, the cemetery, and
Pearl Street.
thank you, and the Pearl Street parking lot, looking for people or cars. If there's a car there, I've waited for somebody to come out. They didn't have a dog, didn't say anything. Other places, there weren't cars, although I did see cross-country ski tracks. I can do that a while longer, but I don't think that's the answer either. Then Chuck forwarded, gotta bring this up, I just looked at it today. Okay, this has to do with dog policy for the town forest committee. These are their rules. And they're suggesting report violations to the Reading Animal Control Officer. I told you the issue with that. There also was talk about creating a program, a bad dog reporting program. I'm not sure how that would work. I'm not sure how it could work.
They're copying that from another town. And I also suggested that you need to reach out to Bill. You're working in different directions. I think Bill could really bring us up to speed on the Bill Sullivan, chair of the
Town Forest Committee.
Yeah, so I think Bill's been working on this. He understands that where the police are. They have signs that have a phone number on it for an animal control officer. Is from reviewing and being at the town forest meeting, this seems to be something that is active now. Okay.
Bill went through a whole discussion about how he had met with those same people, the animal control, the health department, the police, and they worked out a system for alerting the animal control officer.
I wonder when we lost our animal control officer. He may have met somebody who's no longer here, but I don't know. Do you have any idea how that program works? The bad dog program? Is that for bite situations? Is that for too many dog situation? What's it cover?
It's just a program to report
Not a huge
dog
fan.
incidents. But I don't know what's going to happen, but they decided that they'll also get the incident report from the police department, because I don't know exactly how they're going to implement this bad dog. But
You could get
maybe,
false reports too, and that's the problem with that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I've had it happen. I lived in Salem and I had my dogs on a leash and I got a ticket in the mail
Somebody-
from Winter Island
Those
in
dogs
Salem.
running around.
Right.
Hmm.
And on the leash, I got a ticket and I had to pay it. So I'm not a huge fan of reporting, because you can report anything. I can report your dog off a leash and you could be walking it.
So I don't
Doesn't matter.
know if you're aware, but when we put this all into effect, those of us who were on the commission then got training from the town clerk.
You'd have to have proof of it.
And though it was for us to write the ticket, so we were given a ticket book.
This was a phone in.
Yeah,
And
I
the
don't
issue
believe-
with giving us a ticket book is we have to obtain the name of the person from the person
It would
who's
never
there
be
with
the
a
same.
dog. And it seems unlikely that they're gonna admit who they are when we're saying, excuse me, may I write a ticket to you for having brought your dog in here?
so what I've decided to do, and I haven't had to do it yet, is when and if I get to a situation where I see somebody with a dog either going in or coming out, that I'll talk to them, ask for their identification, expect them to say no. I'm gonna take a picture of the license plate.
The thought that I had was go up and be friendly with the dog and look for their dog tag number.
Interesting thought.
I think a number of people who are using Bear Meadow are walking to Bear Meadow.
Yes, that is true.
You're not gonna
Of
find
the
them.
ones going in the cemetery, most of them are walking. There are a few tracks from the perimeter road, but most of them come in from Franklin Street. You are
I've
correct.
seen walk-ins coming along Pearl.
Yeah, we did have a conversation, which we haven't implemented yet, that perhaps we could be in there and speak to people if we see them and then walk behind them, going back to the house. We've discussed it. Nobody has said, pick me. But anyway, it's an option. The bottom line is we need to do something. Start the conversation we just had on Pearl Street, right? Having the regulation and not doing anything is not a good answer. I share your concerns about a bad dog.
Right, you could have someone just didn't like how you parked.
Yeah. Besides,
The license plate, okay.
I was raised to believe there are
That's how
no
it
bad
is.
dogs, they're just bad dog owners.
Right.
And
But like I
so-
said, you could be just walking your dogs and someone just not like what you did.
Yeah.
And that's hard to
We
police.
don't
that.
have a policy like that. We have
They didn't either, though.
we have a line of sight
We-
violation book. If you see that person and you decide that that person's done something wrong, you can give that violation out. We
Can
don't
they
have-
call the town and do that and then they can do it?
No, it's
So that's
just
what-
us. It's just
Right,
us.
so that's what happens. So
And
so
by
they
us-
call the town
by us, you
and
mean
they give you
Arlington,
the
right?
ticket.
Yeah, we don't have that.
That's not the way it works here.
Good.
Yeah.
Because.
I would write a ticket, I would hand you a copy and say, you need to go to town hall and pay this, and I would keep a copy. But I would have to actually confront you in person to say, I see you have a dog with you. You're in Bear Meadow. You're not supposed to have a dog. I'm writing.
And it's not so great. I know a bunch of people. Brian knows a bunch of people. Everyone knows people. I mean, these are the guys, I mean, like all the contract, I know there's contractors in there and whatnot that I've seen at town hall. So it's not like I'm not going to recognize anyone. Most of the people that I was there a lot on Fridays a few months ago, and when people came in, I would talk to them. They were happy to leave. They didn't realize it, whether they're BSing or not, they would just leave, and that's the whole
The
point.
dogs are just playing and they're gonna, oh,
And
sorry.
that's what I found too,
No.
is I started out
This
just
isn't
warning
the fact
people.
line.
And the people paid attention. In fact, when we were in there before the Bear Meadow thing, there was this woman who was walking really fast. And I was killing myself trying to catch up to her, but once I talked to her, she didn't know, she turned around and walked out. So I am hoping that in time, the majority of the people are discouraged by those kind of means, and that we won't have to give out tickets. But in the meantime, there is some pressure.
We're up to a point where a few tickets are deserved. I mean, Kathy Kelly sent me a picture of, not only dog prints walking on our trail, but they didn't pick up after their dog. It's like, so they want to use the place and they want to disrespect it.
Yeah, I agree. So,
Well, and I would say if you recognize a person and you know you've already had a conversation with them before,
Absolutely, yeah.
then that's definitely ticket worthy.
well, and see what I
As
get,
opposed to this is the first time you've met that person on the trail.
and what I'm thinking is, again, take a picture of the license plate.
Well, I'm not so sure. So that we can do, I'm concerned about, that sounds like a smart idea, but
Is it legal?
yeah,
No,
exactly.
it is legal.
I want to make sure that anything that we're going to like get out there has been vetted by the police department.
Okay, so I did ask Laura during that training. She said you can do it, but the police are not going to run
Is it
down the
legally
plate for you.
enforceable? It's
And
not.
so, but again, my thought there is that if we do that enough, that will discourage people because they may not know that there's no next step.
But if they don't pay the fine, there's no legal ramifications for that.
No, we have
What we
regulations.
want to do is to have the dog traffic there cut down, if not eliminated.
Right.
And if we can discourage a significant percentage of the.
But if you
people
give someone a ticket, are they legally?
Yes, we have regulations. Yeah, yeah, we have.
are duly authorized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how are we gonna give a
We
ticket?
on the
if you don't give us a
Conservation
name?
Commission, not just random people on. the
Right,
street.
well,
But Laura came and trained us, gave us each a ticket book, signed us out with the number on.
right,
our
the
ticket.
people that are trained, so that's legally enforceable.
But we
Right.
do not have the authority to ask for their ID, which is the issue. They would have to voluntarily say, I'm John Smith and I'm a bad boy.
Or you have to know them, or you have to see them, or you have to, you know, like you said, there's not many people driving in. There are a few driving in from somewhere else, but
Right, so in my mind, the passive, if that's the word, discouragement. Take a picture of the plate if you see him with the car, take their picture. Even if you can never identify him,
At least you know the next time.
but yeah, you can recognize it. I've taught you already, but also it might make them concerned enough that they find one of the other places to walk. There's a million places around here to walk. It's
all
not-
right, so Brian, I want to know if you're going to be reaching out to Bill Sullivan. Doesn't sound like, I think that's a good idea, like we connect with what their enforcement issues are.
I think that's fine. In fact, going back to the health director, that's what he suggested is, why don't we wait and see what the town forest committee does and how well that works out? Kind of passive, but I will reach out to Bill and tell him what I'm looking for.
Yeah, my plan is to be more right with them. They're doing it, we're doing it at the same time. It's implemented exactly the same time. We just catch up to them.
But if they're doing a bad dog program, depending on the details, I may not be on board with that either. For all the things Tim mentioned and, you know, people confused.
Thank God there's like 6 other votes on here, so we'll see how that goes. But I think what they're trying to do is do a bad dog program for the entire town. So you may not have like so I don't know if it's going to be like, oh, well, but don't report a dog at Bear Meadow. I think it's going to be more of a town-wide thing.
Oh, I get it.
And they're grabbing it from another town.
Talk to Bill and I'll get some details.
Yeah, get a hold of Bill.
Okay,
Hey, Brian,
yes, sir.
when you do your vigilance test, are you wearing your vest?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was thinking the same thing. Okay,
Yeah. In fact, I sit in my car with the vest on,
Waiting.
on the hope that they will perhaps see the vest. And again, they get discouraged. I just want to discourage people from going in. I don't want to have to confront them. I don't want to have to show my martial arts skills or lack thereof.
We can get you
A beanie hat?
yeah, no, a flashing light,
I have one of those.
Starsky and Hutch.
I have a fireman's hat with
At a
a.
certain age to know that.
Oh, he means.
Everyone, this is the second time someone said that. I watched it on YouTube. Everything is modern these days.
Okay, so next topic, minutes. So I just sent out 12/11, so we can't review that one.
Chuck, did you get my comment on that one?
I did. I got all the comments. Yeah. Your comments?
Yes.
On 12/11,
No. I got all the comments from people and I'm not saying specific ones.
Right, so 12/11, we can't review yet. 122, we can't review yet. You haven't submitted that, right?
No, I have not.
He says not pointedly. And you are doing so much better than Chuck did on his.
we can submit and we can review 1/8.
Yes, and I was gonna say, so the one that we can review and approve would be Martha's January 8th. I have submitted comments. I've used, but first of all, everybody read it. Everybody read January 8th.
I didn't read January 8th.
I did.
Walter sent his comments in.
Okay, so that's a quorum who have read it.
Mhm.
And so you have, are there any comments above and beyond what people sent in? Any comments? Okay, given that, can I have a motion to approve the January 8th meeting as amended with the comments that were sent in?
I'm not gonna make that motion because it was my minutes. Somebody
Why
else
don't you
has to
make that
step
motion?
up.
To Michelle,
No, you make a motion. Make a motion.
make a motion to accept the minutes of January 8th
As amended.
as amended.
Second?
I second.
Mr. Talbot's in favor.
Abstain. I didn't read them.
I'm abstaining too.
Your turn next.
To Michelle approved.
Martha Moore in favor.
In favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. Okay, and that's all we can do for minutes this time. Next time, we certainly can review mine. If you're going to actually review it, sit down. There's
There's a lot.
a lot there. I was going to number the pages, but I don't want to discourage people. Okay, and truly not giving you a hard time. Do you think you'll have it for next time or?
I may.
Okay, it'd be good if you could, just so we stay close.
60-hour weeks the past couple of weeks.
Okay. Having said that, is there anything else before we adjourn?
Chuck was talking about having us go to the Arbor Day meeting, but he didn't say when it is, just that it's at the library.
Oh, it's,
You mentioned during vacation week or something like that.
it's
Well, just looking at,
March, it's March 4th. I don't know what time, but March 4th.
and that's what we'll do on March
I thought it
4th.
was,
That was
I thought it was like 5:30 or 5, so it's around that time. We'll get you the time. I thought I put it in here, but I
You
don't.
probably sent me an email, but been a little overwhelmed too.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that that's the last comment before we adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn at 9:18.
Second.
All in favor?
Let's do it.
Thank you. Let's go home and watch hockey.
Good night.
Hockey, what's on tonight?
Before.
Son.
Oh.